How's it going? I'm Braedon Flynn, host of the Artist Report. I'm on my way out to Vegas right now and going to be having some conversations with some amazing people. Good to see you, bud.
Good to see you too, man.
Introduce yourself.
How was yeah field trip?
Field trip. Field trip was amazing. It was for me. It was a place where it was just getting together a ton of creatives, a ton of just really, really talented people, and then sort of inspiring each other to step up your game. You know.
That's really great. I really wish I could have been there, but I had to shoot a wedding on Saturday, and then I have to go home and shoot another wedding on Saturday, and then I have to do another wedding on the next Saturday. So I feel like that is huge inspiration to be able to get together, and such an awesome thing to be able to do.
Good. It's important to refuel. So introduce yourself and what you do.
Sorry, that was a precursor. So I'm Eric Kelley, and I'm from Charlottesville, Virginia. I've got a wife who's awesome, Laura, and I have a son whose name is Henry. He's almost 4. He thinks his birthday is tomorrow, but it's next month, and so he's like, is it tomorrow? Is it tomorrow? I'm like, no, we have about 55 more tomorrows before your birthday. And then we have Della, who's just 1, who she was born when the lights went out in the Super Bowl last year. Like, I think pretty much right.
She was conceived when the lights went out?
No, she was born. Yeah, not conceived then.
Awesome. What? Talk to me about your work. I guess if Bryce Covey asked me this question when I was getting interviewed, I thought it was a good question. If someone was to ask you in an elevator, your elevator pitch about your work, like describe yourself and your work.
Describe myself and my work. So I come from a fine art background where I studied fine art photography in school in Virginia, and then got into a photojournalism world that was like strictly digital and strictly non-affecting photography that's just like a fly on the wall. So in an elevator, I would tell somebody that I have this great photojournalistic background, but a fine art background as well. And so I'm a melder of the two, and I think that I'm able to see situations and know when I should be in the situation and when I should not be in the situation, and let things happen. So I photograph a lot of weddings, and I do some portraits for my clients, mostly who I'm photographing their weddings in the coming months. So to be able to be with people on an awesome day in their life is really a huge honor, and for them to want to have my photos for the rest of their life is pretty cool. I don't know if that really answered the question or not.
No, it did, for sure. That's amazing. Because I would say when people ask me that, I say my blending is a mix between shooting music and bands, and then it's also shooting sort of fashion editorial, which then the combination of that gets your documentary plus this part where you come in. But that's really cool.
That's right. And so when I started, I was in school. We were studying film. We were studying the awesome photographers of the 1900s, and of which I can't even tell you all their names right this second. And I'm working on thinking about them again because I've been so busy doing life and business and kids and family. Anyway, I forgot what I was talking about.
All right, that's cool. We'll go into
digital and film. So I shoot a combination of digital and film because I think that each has its own awesome qualities, and I am one to not want to pigeonhole myself. And I think that there are great attributes to film, which is why I do it. And it's beautiful, and it's for weddings and portraits of engaged couples, it's like beautifully romantic in the way that I shoot it. And there's also room for digital, and there's room for overexposing and underexposing, and room for digital, and all of these things that I'm working on combining all of them instead of being very limited and potentially pigeonholing myself somewhere that I can't get out of.
Yeah, and I was talking to you earlier about basically where you find your inspiration. You were talking about some of the photo books you're into. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so just the other day I was looking at a Richard Avedon book. I love his work. I love it. A lot of it I love is large format, which I don't shoot large format, so you can't actually get the exact feel that he has in his books, but just the forms of the bodies and the way he's able to photograph people is just beautiful. There's a lot of awesome work out there right now in the world that people are shooting film and they're getting amazing stuff. And I've been completely intrigued by all of the variety of film that's coming out right now. We were just talking about some of the photos on the Kodak booth that are completely true to life. Some of the stuff that Ryan Muirhead's doing, some of the stuff that Tanya Lippert's doing. And then I feel like the polar opposite is what Elizabeth Messina and Jose Villa and some of the work that you're doing and some of the other people that I'm totally admiring right now. Whatever the other word is. Yeah, admiration. I think that there's just a lot of great work coming out right now, and I'm not a photoshopping photographer, and so I'm studying the greats from the past because they didn't have Photoshop then. They had a darkroom, and they made beautiful images in camera when they were shooting. And so trying to look at that work and infiltrate my life with work like that to get inspiration.
Yeah, and it would force you to slow down a little bit and be really actually thoughtful about everything in your frame.
Yeah, I was talking to Ryan Muirhead earlier today because I was blown away by a couple of his images. He's like, yeah, I'm spot metering the shadows and the highlights in here and on her hand and on her forehead. Like, I'm really paying attention to what it is. And yeah, you could use your digital camera and you could take a picture and adjust it a little bit and take a picture and adjust it a little bit. And at the end of the shoot, you're like, I have no idea what I just did. I just moved some buttons. And so being able to get that shot in one take is pretty mind-blowing to me, and I want to be a part of doing that. And that's really fun.
I feel like there's a lot of people that you just mentioned, especially that are just really stepping up their game and just like causing like bars being raised super high, which is inspiring and challenging, and also which then leads back to that inspiration.
Totally, and I was talking to a group of people earlier, and they were like, how do you get inspiration? And I think that, looking at people, but also being able to pull back and like, all right, I'm going to hunker down, I'm just going to do work, I'm going to try to figure out this and that, and just kind of go and see what I create, because I feel like every bride is different, every person is different, and you can study like poses and how to do this and how to do that, but at the end of the day, your client is going to be different than the client that the other photographer had. And so while you can get inspiration for like poses or places, when you go there and you look at it with your eyes, and when your client comes there with you, all bets are off as to what's going to happen. And that's really amazing.
Yeah, and keeps it fun too.
It totally keeps it fun.
Will you talk about just where you find, like, how do you recharge, how do you refuel for like just staying creative and all that?
Yeah, so we have a pretty cyclical wedding season in Charlottesville where we live. I have a bunch of weddings in May and June, and then a bunch of weddings in, September, October, maybe early November. Really, I have a big chunk in the first half of, like 19 of my 25 weddings are before July 1st this year. So I have a crazy next few months. So it's nice to be able to work pretty hard for a little while and then like breathe and take a little while off. But, I, having a couple of businesses, I also own a coffee shop, having that and having a wife and 2 kids and a house and all these things, and running your own business, it's like sometimes you just need to like sit on the couch and not do anything, because you can't even read a book because your mind is just going all the time with all these ideas, and I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to do this. Recently, I've found some new programs and some new systems to make all of it work better, which has taken a whole lot of the pressure off, but I would rather just hang out with my wife for an evening and not do anything than, try to go do something for fun.
What are some of the new programs you're excited about right now?
So a couple weeks ago, I was introduced to Smart Albums. In January, I had about 20 albums that I needed to design, and it was going to take me about 6 to 8 hours per album is what I was estimating just to design it in the first place. And then I had to get it to the client, and then I had to get changes from the client, and I had to make them and all that stuff. So I just found Smart Albums. I don't know if you've seen them, but they are amazing. And what once took me 6 to 8 hours is being done in 30 minutes.
Time saver. Time is money.
So you think about 10 weddings, and you go from 8 hours a wedding is 80 hours to 30 minutes. You're looking at 5 hours to design 10 albums instead of 80 hours. So frees up tons of time to think. Like that's been a huge mental block that I've had for the last couple of years, like just being behind on albums and not having a system. I've kind of been waiting for something like this to happen where I could have a really good, quick, and efficient system, and I found it. And now, in the last 8 weeks, I've been traveling a bunch, but I've designed 6 albums. I think I've gotten 5 of them out the door to the client. So lots of productivity is happening with some new systems like that.
I'm all about just eliminating stuff out of your system so you can just have time to actually do life.
Yeah, and I want to hang out with my 1-year-old and my almost 4-year-old and my wife more than I want to sit in front of my computer and edit stuff, which is another reason why I shoot film, because I take the pictures and I put them in a box and I send them away and I get them back and they're awesome. So no more discouraging evenings sitting in front of a computer calling through thousands of images, looking at images that aren't great looking because they've not been edited. And I'm not an editing photographer. There are some amazing editing photographers out there, and I'm not one of them. And that's one of the reasons I shoot film the way I do it. And I could shoot digital and I could send it off, but I think differently when I'm shooting film. I slow down. I consider what's happening. I consider the cost of each picture, and I take it. Whereas, we downplay our time, and we don't think about how much our time is valued at. And so when you actually break it down, film isn't any more expensive than digital.
Yeah, I'm in that camp for sure. And anything, I don't like editing my photos, and I would rather, that's something I feel like I can outsource so that someone's going to do a better job than I would.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning you think about outsourcing. You're like, no, I need to have a grasp on this. But if you work with somebody, like I work with Richard Photo Lab, if you work with somebody and you're in constant communication with them, it's like they're sitting next to you editing, or it's like you're editing your stuff because it's coming back the way you want it. Ryan Muirhead today, I was like, I'm not sure how you do some of this stuff, and he's like, phone calls, like, this is a dark, moody shoot, this is a bright shoot, like, call them up and tell them what you want to do, and they, you can do whatever you want to do. Because if it were digital and you were the one editing it, you would make that call. So you just have to really have a good relationship with whoever's editing your work.
Yeah, love it, man. Love what you're doing. Love getting to see you out here. If you could just tell people where they can find your work and find you.
Yeah, so you can find me online, erickelleyphotography.com. There's an E in Kelley, so Kelley. And my wife is Laura Kelley, Lora. You can find us on Instagram. I'm Eric Kelley, and Twitter and Instagram is both at Eric Kelley, and then Laura is Laura Kelley on Twitter, and then Laura_Kelley on Instagram, and it's Lora.
Rad. Well, looking forward to hanging out more this week, and thanks for your time.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
All right. See ya.
I don't wanna hear about this.